Well, what you will often not hear about INTJs, this is coming from an INFJ, so it's an INFJ speaking, but what you won't often hear about INTJs is that there are misfits. The vast majority of INTJs don't know what the hell is going on in the world and where they're supposed to fit, and they feel alienation pretty much as strongly as INFJs do. This is not a surprise, given that INTJs share an I dominance and SE inferior with INFJs. So there's going to be a sense of being removed from the world and accessing the NI world. And as a result of being poised between these two worlds, experiencing a sense of severance from both one world and the other. So a sense of existential discomfort with reality as such and with the fact of existing. It's true that INTJs don't have this reputation of being alienated misfits. You'll see that I have an expression for them later on that I will share with you, and you can tell me what you think. They don't have this reputation in the way that INFJs do, and I think there are three reasons for this. The number one reason is also the most crude, but perhaps the most effective for that matter. And this number one reason is simply that there's a lot of meme culture around INTJs and mythologies around the INTJ mastermind that is like, dominating the world, dominating the country, dominating a company, just being in this position of power and essentially being super integrated in their society and pulling the strings, right? This is partly inspired by fiction, partly inspired by memes, partly inspired by the inherent desire in a lot of MBTI to glorify types to a degree or another, and this happens with INFJs too, of course, not as much, but you see that a lot with INTJs. It's often as if people forget that the dominant function of INTJs is not TE. It's not TE, it's NI. And if it's NI, you're going to have alienation. You're going to have a sense of not belonging in the world. You're going to have a sense of disembodiment. And you're going to have a sense of your prescience, of the fact that you know things in your bones, not being at all easy to share with other people. Now, it's true that the fact that INTJs have TE has an impact here. But this is something that we're going to be looking at in a minute. The thing that I wanted to emphasize again is that there's a huge discrepancy and disconnect between the popular image that a lot of people have of INTJs and the real phenomenology of INTJs and how INTJs experience their life. The vast majority of INTJs is very, very different. So the most true reason again is this mythology and this meme culture. The second reason is indeed that INTJs are on the TEFI axis. Reason number 2 and reason number 3 are both linked to the TEFI axis. So starting with TE, the fact that INTJs have TE means that they're able to interact with the world on the basis of objective criteria that is less reliant on sociality than INFJs are. So in a sense, INTJs are not as dependent as INFJs are on the subjectivities of other people and the intersubjective world of the social fabric of social interactions. And so they're able to have a more, in a sense, more unmediated impact on reality so that they can get by, okay? It's not necessarily so that they can have the life of a CEO or of Batman or what have you, but at least that they can function, okay? They can function, they have mastered the code of external reality just to the extent that they can carve out a niche for themselves and have people like leave them alone, okay? So this is why I often have in mind the phrase to describe the INTJ, a high functional alien. It's like if you're a high functional depressed person, high functional autistic person, you're still autistic, still depressed, but you can function. High functional alcoholism, I guess, is another example. So I'm not saying the INTJ is any of these things, but INTJs are often, compared to INFJs, they're often high functional aliens, whereas INFJs are often just aliens. But that still doesn't mean that INTJs are not aliens. They are aliens. They're just high functional. often thanks to that TE function. But if we move to the third reason, the third factor, which actually links with the notion that even INTJs are not always high functional. It's a mistake to think that just because you have TE, you're going to be high functional. Because, listen, we know, people who are interested in the INFJ personality, we know that there's a lot of INFJs who don't engage with their FE function that much, who repress their FE function that much, so quite a bit. So it really does indicate that it's possible to repress your auxiliary function. Your auxiliary function doesn't have to be well developed. It doesn't have to be well integrated. And the exact same happens with INTJs. And you will meet NIFI INTJs, as they are often called, that don't have TE that well developed. They have a rejection of TE. They experience some level of rejection of TE. There can be multiple reasons for this. And as a result, they don't get this functional method of access to high functionality even. They will be still different from INFJs in the sense that because they are FI users, the sense of interconnected sharing is not as present, so they won't share, and they will remain much more self-contained, and people might not be made aware of the fact that they feel very much like aliens and that they don't belong in the world. There's not as much of a drive to expression as part of a social circle where what you say needs to have an echo among a wider population or the tribe for it to have the full meaning that it deserves to have in your own eyes. That's the FE way. For INTJs, that doesn't really manifest in this way. So you might not be made aware of that, that they feel like aliens, but they do. They do, and again, try to keep these three factors in mind and think about INTJs being NI dominant, and you will observe real INTJs, not ESTPs posing as INTJs or ENTJs thinking they're INTJs, real INTJs. And I think you will come inevitably to the same conclusion as me. High functional aliens, I think, is a good descriptor. But let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget that for now, I haven't written a book on the INTJ, although some INTJs have asked me if I would consider writing a book. I would consider writing a book on INTJs. It's certainly the type that's not INFJ that I would feel the most competent to talk about because of these functions that we have in common being a very good basis to start from. But so far, 2 books on the INFJ, the Ecstatic Soul and the Infinite Soul. The Ecstatic Soul looks at the inside of the INFJ mind and its existential manifestation. It's kind of an analysis, in-depth look at the INFJ consciousness. The sequel, the Infinite Soul, is out only a few months. And this looks more at the INFJ in the world, right? INFJ life in the modern world, a world that is often perceived as hostile, lived as hostile, maybe objectively hostile. How to find meaning, value, purpose, incomparably rich lives in a world that is often defined by cause and effect mechanism and capitalist accumulation and destruction of meaning. So get it if you haven't yet. And if you have got it and liked it or loved it and haven't dropped a review, please consider dropping a review because it helps with the referencing. I have a Patreon page that is the lifeblood of my channel, really keeps the channel going. So any support that I can get, you can interact with me there, you can ask me questions. I do some young readings as well. So if you're interested and you could support me at least a little bit every month, please consider it. The link is below. Okay, thank you so much, guys, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.